What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Arris, with Tim Connolly.
What's going on, Variant Nation?
You know what, Tim? You know what?
What's up, man?
I'm very excited for today.
Tell me about it.
Because you know we're talking about WandaVision episode 5.
There's a lot.
A lot happened. Yeah, and we didn't talk about this much at all off camera. I think we probably exchanged like 4 or 5 texts, but we haven't gone in depth at all. This is the first really time
elaborating on it. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times, we just geek out like right after the episodes air and stuff, but this time we didn't. So this is like fresh. This is first time geekery.
Yeah, this is a fresh rant. Yeah. This was by far the best episode yet. And I feel like we say that about a lot of things, but this was the best episode we've seen. Episode 4 was really good. This episode, though, was fantastic. And it was jam-packed with a lot more information.
Jam-packed,
there was a lot that happened, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot that was revealed, and they're really starting to unravel some really cool stuff now.
Yeah, it's crazy because we said, that the last episode 4 was our favorite, and this one upped it. It's kind of like they're kind of spoiling me though. Now I'm like, episode 6 better be better than the last one. You know what I mean? But I'm waiting because I know there has to be like a filler episode somewhere. I mean, you could technically say the first 2 episodes were kind of like that, as it was all set up. Again, this was a very slow burn. It took like 3 episodes for anything to really even happen of like consequence for us to understand what's going on. But I feel like there's going to be another filler in there somewhere. You know what I mean? We got 4 episodes left. If the last 4 episodes just keep one-upping each other, I don't even know. That just means on episode 9, they're just going to introduce the entire Fantastic Four and X-Men. Like, that's the only way you do it. You can keep one-upping yourself at that rate. It indeed. Is utterly insane. But like, before we talk about the big thing, the cliffhanger, we got to end with that, obviously.
Yeah,
as the episode did.
And as we always say, we're about to talk freely about this. So if you have not seen it, this is going to be spoilers galore. So be warned.
But before we got to that massive reveal that's changing everything, dude, like you were saying, there were so many hints, nods, and things in this episode throughout, and it was the everywhere. MCU. Yeah, the writing is so clever where they say stuff passing, very like, passive. Like there's just, they go right over it, and like only like the true fans and diehards will be like, oh, did they just say like, like aerospace engineer? Does that mean like Mr. Fantastic, or like little things like that? And it's just so clever. I just love, the writing all the way around. It's just crazy. The way Kevin Feige could wrangle, because obviously tons of different writers for all these series, but the way Kevin Feige could wrangle all the creatives, because, he's the guy, he's up there, but he's wrangling everyone and make it just all work seamlessly. It always impresses me. We brought it up so many times, but every time, we get a new episode, a new movie where something like shocking or some cool revelation happens, I'm like, I would love to see their freaking roadmap, their dry erase boards when planning all this crap out. It's nuts.
No joke. Yeah. That'd be a ton of fun to be a fly on that wall.
But one of my favorite things in the episode, which we didn't even talk about it, but I know you're going to have to agree, because I think anyone would agree, is Vision is finally coming to the realization that something's up. Like, we've got little hints of it throughout the first several episodes, but this episode, he full on figured out. Wanda is doing something, controlling these people, to the point where like they almost start to fight. Like they start flying, towards the end of the episode and are about to go at each other, which was crazy. And
this is the first time we've seen Vision angry.
Yeah, especially with Wanda. He says it in the episode. He goes, "We're usually of one mind. Like, what's happening, Wanda?" You know. But it was a really, really cool thing to see, especially since they've been in love and we haven't seen them fight on screen yet.
No. They did fight a little bit in Civil War, but they apologized to each other and stuff.
That's true. That's true. I guess like in this marital, spouse kind of new lifestyle.
Right.
But it was really interesting because Vision, he knows she's doing something. He doesn't know exactly what. He just knows from one of his coworkers in the sitcom world that like this guy, who she's controlling is missing his family, and it's in pain and it hurts. And Wanda and Vision are superheroes. So, and he's thinking, he's like, Wanda, like he pretty much tells her that in the episode. He's like, what are you doing? Like, this guy misses his family. You can't do this. Like, what's happening? He doesn't full out say it, but he's basically saying, it's like, we're supposed to save people.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like that's,
I mean,
we're
he
not the
flat
bad
out
guys.
says,
We're the
like,
Avengers.
Wanda, this is wrong.
Yeah, it was a really cool dynamic, but was also I found really interesting. I don't know if you think this because it's kind of vague, but they're kind of playing it where Wanda is doing this, but it's like, is she doing all of it? You know what I mean? Where like she's doing it, but there might be something bigger behind the scenes where maybe something's forcing her to do it, or like maybe like the devil, Mephisto, like presented her. It's like, hey, you always wanted, if you wanted this, you know, you could have it, but this is the cost. You know what I mean? Kind of like that thing. So I'm very curious to see if it's going to be solely her or not. I'm thinking no, because Agnes, that crazy neighbor in the show, there's a bit at the beginning of the episode where she kind of breaks out, right? Where she's in that sitcom world, but she doesn't break out where like, oh, you're controlling me. She breaks out like, they need to do another take. She's like, oh, sorry, did I mess up that take? And Vision, that's when Vision first realizes,
she's fully aware.
Yeah, she's fully aware what reality they're in. And it's not like, oh, it hurts my family. She's like, oh, let's do it again. So I think that is a nice little like, to the audience, this something might not be right here. She might be in on it in some facet, and you know, and Wanda plays along with it too because Vision's like, "Did you not just see that?" And she's like, "No, what are you talking about?" He's like, "You didn't see what she just did? Like, what's happening?" And that was kind of the start of it from the beginning of the episode. But it's all those little beats that was really, really cool. I will say before you know, I give it to you a little bit, and then we start going back and forth. One of my favorite things in the episode that, honestly, truthfully, I didn't even realize up until now, is when Jimmy Woo's character is breaking down to Sword and you know all the agents in there, Wanda Maximoff's history and stuff like that with the Avengers and how she got her powers with the Mind Stone and all that stuff.
Right.
They asked, does Wanda have a nickname? Does she have like an alias?
Yeah, you didn't pick up on that initially?
No, I picked up on that, but it's like, he's like, no, but I didn't realize that they've never called her Scarlet Witch yet.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they still haven't called her Scarlet. Like, I was like, when he said that, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. They've never called her Scarlet Witch, because like when you buy like the action figures and Hot Toys and even you see the promo art, they just call her Scarlet Witch. They don't say Wanda. But like in the MCU, none of the actors or characters in that world have actually called her Scarlet Witch. Vision always calls her Wanda. You know, Cap called her Wanda, or Maximoff. They have yet to officially name Wanda Scarlet Witch. They have yet to officially name Wanda Scarlet Witch in the MCU, and they're obviously going to do that in the show. And I was like, that's brilliant. And I can't believe I didn't pick up on that. I can't believe I didn't realize until now that they haven't called her Scarlet Witch officially in the show. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's actually been a pretty big deal. And Kevin Feige actually made a big deal of it. And specifically, I think it was back a couple of years ago when they were first announcing this show. He basically said she's going to officially finally become Scarlet Witch in this show.
I completely forgot, which kind of worked in my favor, because it's that thing where like if you're not expecting it, it's like, oh, that's awesome, and that's what's happening. I'm like, that's awesome.
Right. And it really makes sense for them to do it in this show because of the storyline that they're going with. And they're really fully revealing with this show just how powerful she actually is, which is really, I think, one of the cooler aspects of the show. It's really showing the dynamics of, you know, her power set. Because, you know, when you in the MCU thus far, it was a little ambiguous as to what her powers actually were, right? We knew she had the ability to manipulate the mind and things like that. But now they're really getting into the fact that she's a very powerful telepath, but also a sorceress, basically, that she's able to tap into mystical power, not just energy constructs. That she's able to manipulate reality itself, which is, you know, such a huge part of her power set. And that for me was one of the big elements of this. You already hinted at. I totally agree that while Wanda is clearly doing all of this, you know, I do not think that it is her alone at all. I think I think in episode 5, the progression of what we've seen in terms of her interaction and relationship with Agnes, I think that's confirming that there is something else going on in the line. And the big tip off for me was when Vision came in the morning when they had, you know, they were getting the dog in the sink and the whole thing. And he comes walking in and he's dressed and she's like, oh, why so formal? And he's like, you know, I just had a feeling that someone was going to be stopping by with exactly. And then Agnes comes walking in with a dog house. And he says, with exactly the item we require. And that has been the case every time they needed something. Agnes just shows up with exactly what they need in the moment. And then even at the end, right, with the big reveal at the end of the episode that we all know Quicksilver does show up at the end of this episode.
Oh, you're just going right to it.
I'm just going right to it because it's relevant to this point. Is Wanda specifically says her and Vision are fighting, and she's trying to convince Villain that I'm not responsible. She's just making excuses. And the doorbell rings, and she says, "That wasn't me. I'm not doing that." And he doesn't really know whether to believe her or not, obviously and understandably, but you could tell she's serious. And it goes along with everything else we've seen from her interactions with Agnes. Now, here's the thing. I think that Wanda knows what she's doing. I don't think that Wanda knows the power that she's tapping into to do it. At least that's my theory. It could go either way. She could have worked out a deal, and because she's also performing magical acts and using her powers right in front of Agnes. The boys are growing up and aging themselves up, as they say in the show, right in front of Agnes. Agnes doesn't even blink. Vision's like, wait a second, why is it okay to do this in front of her? So she clearly knows. So I don't know if she's already worked out a deal to get all this back. She, in her grief, Agnes showed up and said, "Hey, listen, you can have everything that you want. You can have it all back, and I can help you do that." And that's the kind of the deal that's been arranged. Or if, Wanda somehow tapped into something that she doesn't fully understand, which is, she's drawing from the mystical energies from the dark energies from Mephisto, and she's using those, but she doesn't really fully realize what she's pulling and drawing from, you know what I mean, to create this reality. But without question, there is someone else involved behind the scenes, because a lot of these things that are happening, she seems confused about. She's even getting surprised by, right?
No, yes, and I love how they play that up, like what I was saying earlier, where that's the kind of stuff I was talking about, where they play it vague, where it's like, yes, she is doing stuff, but it's also like, is she? Because like you were just saying, there's lots of moments where, she doesn't know what's going on, especially the big Quicksilver moment at the end. Like that one, like you said, you could definitely see that was played to be like, oh no, I really don't know. Like so even the audience could know, no, Wanda doesn't know what's going on right now. Right. And she was genuinely shocked when she opens that door and she sees, Quicksilver. It was like, whoa, like it was a big deal. So you could definitely, someone's doing something, you know what I mean? And I feel like they're not going to do this miniseries that's directly leading into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, not introducing it. I feel like in the end, a big part of this series will be introducing and setting up the villain for the Multiverse of Madness. Cause I mean, can you imagine like Doctor Strange, Wanda, and whoever else is in that movie fighting Mephisto? Like, that's a pretty freaking big deal. And like Mephisto is messing with the multiverse and stuff like that because he's the devil. Like, that's crazy. That would be nuts. So definitely something else is at play. But before, I know we already let the cat out of the bag, even though everyone listening at this point knows. Quicksilver.
I didn't say the big aspect of it yet.
No. You're right. You did it. There's some other cool stuff that I think we have to touch on before we get to the big thing. Yeah, because another thing that I thought, kind of playing off the whole, officially that the series is officially going to name Wanda the Scarlet Witch by the end of the series. So the Darcy character from the Thor movies actually brings up another thing from Scarlet Witch's mythos from the comics, which is Hex. She officially names that anomaly that Wanda created the Hex Sphere, right? And in the comics,
or just the Hex, right?
Or just the Hex, right?
Yeah, just the Hex.
And in the comics, we know that Wanda's powers are like the hex bolt and stuff like that. Like she uses hexes
and stuff.
Yeah, that's part of her power. So that's really cool how this series is, it makes sense. It's literally called WandaVision. It's about her. But I like how we're finally getting all, the names and stuff from the comics officially introduced in this series. And I think it's going to progress even more, because this was just
clearly,
and again, they say it so like flippantly too, right? Like it was kind of just a running gag in the show, where even later in the like, because Jimmy Woo, when Darcy says Hex, he kind of like shakes his head like, like don't listen to her. But later on in the show, Monica Rambeau calls it, the hex, and she's like, see, it's catching on.
Yeah, right.
So I think stuff like that was really cool. But that whole scene right there, actually, in the middle of the episode with Jimmy Woo, Monica Rambeau, and Darcy, where they're in a sword facility or room with a dry erase board.
Yeah, the lab.
Lab, right. Monica is basically saying all the stuff she would need to get into Westview again, right? She's like, what kind of tank and stuff she would need. And by the end of that, she says, I would need an aerospace engineer. And then after she says that, she's seen texting someone who we would assume is the person she just brought up, said aerospace engineer. She said she knows him. Now, that enough right there is enough to be like, aerospace engineer. We already know the Fantastic Four are gonna be in the MCU. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, right? That enough is like, obviously that is a tease. But if you pause it and look and you zoom in on that whiteboard, you could actually see there's a 4 written exactly like the MCU logo for Fantastic Four on that dry erase board. Yes, there is. If you pause it right behind her, you pause it and zoom in on that dry erase board, there's a 4 written in the same exact font as the 4 for the MCU Fantastic Four logo.
Really? I did not see that. I'm going to have to go and look at that.
Yep. So that is, and we know Marvel, just Disney in general, because they do it with Star Wars, all their big IPs. They love to litter their stuff with Easter eggs. So this just makes all the sense in the world, because they know fans like us are going to pause it. We're going to zoom in. We're going to see, because when you have especially, boards like that and charts, we got to see what's on it. and this is why for that exact reason right there. But also during that conversation, they're talking about, but also during that conversation, that's when they were talking about her powers, like you were saying earlier. That scene right here is like the main bit where they're kind of fleshing out her powers, right? They're saying like her power comes from the Mind Stone, right? That's why she's so strong.
Right,
and Darcy's like, do you realize how powerful she would have to be to control all solid matter in there to like do her bidding, because originally they just thought she was mind controlling people, but now they're kind of thinking like, oh, is she like actually making matter herself, like warping reality itself? And as we know, because that's what she does in the comic books. And then Monica Rambeau basically says, yeah, I mean, she probably is doing that. She almost took out freaking Thanos by herself. If it wasn't for that blitz he caused, I saw no one else being able to take out Thanos by themselves. And then Jimmy Woo's all like, I don't know, Captain Marvel came pretty close.
Yeah, exactly,
which clearly upsets Monica. And, which leads us to believe there's some tension now with them too. You know what I mean? Because when we saw the Captain Marvel movie, she was really little, right? She was really, really little. We don't know what happened from like her, I don't know how old she was in that movie, but let's say she was 10. She was a little girl. I don't know what happened since she was a little girl all the way up until now. So clearly,
I think it might be the fact that she felt abandoned because her mom was sick and died.
Yeah,
she probably felt abandoned by her, and that she wasn't there for her mother and for them. And that's probably where that came from.
Yeah, it could be as simple as that, but I'm wondering if they're going to explore that more. You know what I mean? Because
without any doubt, they're going to.
For sure, because all these little drops, like all those little drops of like, oh, she doesn't have a nickname yet. Oh, it's it's the Hex. Oh, Captain Marvel. You know what I mean? They're doing all these little sprinkles in this episode. It's like, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that later. And we know they will, because if the first 3 episodes of the series is any indication, as it was all set up, then literally episode 4 like revealed, oh, this meant that meant this, and they went back and put all the pieces together. Brilliant.
Yeah, and it's not just that. Like in those same scenes, we're also getting hints that Monica Rambeau's transformation, because she's going to become an Avenger herself, but she's going to become just like in the comics, she becomes various characters, but she picks up, superhero powers as well. And they're already hinting at that. And it looks like they're going to use her exposure to Scarlet Witch's energy field, to give her power set.
Probably. I mean, they already hinted on it. I believe it was episode 4 where you see her mother.
In the episodes, they're not able to conduct x-rays on her all of a sudden. They're not getting anything from her blood. They're getting weird readings and stuff like that. So they're already hinting at it.
Well, even more so than that, even her soon-to-be hero name, I believe it was episode 4 it was episode 4, where she goes back to S.W.O.R.D. after she comes back from the blip, so to speak. When she's in the S.W.O.R.D. headquarters, she sees a picture of her mother on the sword wall, and it says Photon right. Rambo. And as we know, one of the heroes she becomes is Photon. So I think that's ultimately who she's going to become in the MCU. We're going to get her as Photon pretty soon, which, you know, like you said, with all those X-rays and stuff like that, that makes all the sense in the world. That's got to be the setup.
And you knew it was only a matter of time. Like once they introduced her, this was inevitable. So I think the way they're doing it is pretty cool, especially, you know, her interactions with the energy fields that Wanda is generating for that to grant her some kind of power. But then at the same time, it's like, well, why would that only grant her powers? Because she's not going to be the only one that's exposed to it.
Yeah, I'm wondering what like ramifications this is going to have from just like more people, you know what I mean? Because they'd love to like do things where like, oh, remember like all that time ago when Wanda did this? Well, it exposed this and this person, and that's why they have powers now, you know?
Dude. Yeah, this show so far, the ramifications of all the things that they're doing in this show, and this is just the first series, by the way. We have 3-4 series this year alone. Just this first series. The implications of the things that they're introducing with just this series alone is astronomical. Like just the changes of Wanda's power sets and introducing her reality altering power sets, right? The introduction of the twins, which we know go on to get reincarnated and rebirthed as heroes themselves, Wiccan and Speed, right?
Yep.
Very powerful mutants, by the way. We know that everything that's going on with Vision. Is Vision going to come back, or is he going to stay dead? I kind of tend to lean toward the latter, but also the reintroduction now of her brother Quicksilver, and not only that, but the biggest element of that, which we can get into, is the fact that it was not the Quicksilver from Age of Ultron that we all saw in the MCU, but they reintroduced Quicksilver as the Quicksilver from the 20th Century Fox X-Men films, the recent ones, the First Class version of Quicksilver, which was mind-blowing because that kicks the door wide open now to integrate the 20th Century Fox X-Men, the recent class of X-Men from the 20th Century Fox films, into the MCU as is, which I personally did not think was going to happen. I thought they were going to recast the whole thing, and they may still, but them doing that and blowing the doors off with, you know, clearly introducing the multiverse, just like, well, here it is, everybody, was insane, utterly insane. So it's like every time you turn around now, after the first 2 episodes that were, you know, got off to kind of a crazy start, after that and toward the latter half of the 3rd episode, it's just been one thing after the other, towards like, well, that's going to play a big role. Well, that's going to play a big role. You know what I'm saying? It's been one thing after the other. And now I didn't see that Fantastic Four thing on the chalkboard that you just mentioned. I got to go back and look for that. But they're clearly hinting now at potentially Reed Richards. And Darcy also makes reference to a neurobiologist. She knows a pretty good neurobiologist, right? So she's made reference to someone else. So it's like, who's she referring to? And how is that going to play a role? So we're seeing them introduce huge pieces for phase 4 of the MCU in this show. Way more. I don't know about you, but for me, way more than I thought they were going to.
Yeah, I didn't realize the show was going to set up that much stuff for the MCU as a whole. Like, I thought it was going to be a little self-contained. But
exactly.
You know, which is crazy. The fact that it wasn't Aaron Taylor Johnson, it was Evan Peters Quicksilver, was freaking, because like that's the other thing. Like, I think the last podcast, one of the big things I was calling, I'm like, by the end of the show, like, they're gonna bring Quicksilver back. Like, that was for me. That was gonna be like the Luke Skywalker reveal at the end of Mandalorian season 2. But they did that. Okay, not only did they reveal Quicksilver in episode 5, not the freaking finale, they freaking one up themselves and like, yeah, Quicksilver's back. But this is the multiverse, so it's Evan Peters Quicksilver.
Exactly.
Which was crazy. But before we keep going on with that, I did want to present a question or theory with Vision. Now, in this episode, I don't know if you heard, but the way they were talking about, because they show footage of Wanda breaking in to steal Vision's body, right? And you see that was 9 days.
Which was one of the end credit scenes of Endgame.
Yes.
That was another really cool thing when they showed that we were like, no way!
Cool. Very cool. And they used it as, like security footage. And it took place 9 days prior to the events of Wanda, creating this Westview hex, if you will. Anyway, They say while Jimmy and Darcy are talking about it, they say that not like that she's like manipulating Vision. They say she brought him back to life, and they don't know how she brought him back to life without the Mind Stone. So is it not a question of, is Vision going to be brought back to life, or more so, no, she already did bring him back to life. And not only did she bring him back to life, she brought him back to life without the Mind Stone.
Well, they also said how that she's a puppet master, that she's basically marionetting his dead body. They did make reference to that too. So I'm like, well, which one is it? Because that's the other thing that I'm confused about.
Yes.
I'm not sure if Wanda even knows that what she's doing is actually altering reality and creating things in real life. I think that it's possible that the character might be thinking that this is all just an illusion that she's creating for herself, that it's not affecting anything else. It's not changing anything for real. And that's part of the manipulation, right? Because if it is the fact that she's being manipulated and lied to and used by Agnes Harkness and through, really Mephisto through Agnes Harkness, or Agatha Harkness rather, and the character Agnes, if that's the case, she might not be fully aware of the ramifications of what's going on. She might just think, like, for instance, like her twins and them aging up. She just might not think that that's a big deal because she thinks it's just an illusion, not realizing that she's actually manipulating reality itself in real time. So that's one of the things that I'm wondering.
For sure. And that's what kind of, I kind of like it, though, that we don't have, solid answers, because they'll say one thing's, one moment where it's like, oh, she brought Vision back to life, but how did she do it without the Mind Stone? But then you see in episode 4, which, goes to what you were just saying, where she, comes out of it real quick and you see zombie freaking Vision with his head half crushed in. So it's like, is she just being, freaking using her magic to drag around his corpse and play pretend, or did she bring him back to life? Like, it's still vague enough where I don't think we know one way or another, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting way to play it.
Yeah, and we know from Infinity War that it is possible for Vision in the MCU to exist without the Mind Stone.
Yes.
Remember, Shuri was working on him to remove the Mind Stone and to basically restructure his internal mainframe, whatever you want to call it, his internal systems. Yeah, his internal AI to operate on its own, to where he would be detached from the Mind Stone, but the core of who he was would stay intact, and he would just stay alive. And so we know from that film that that is possible. So it's like, in her manipulating reality, is she also rewiring Vision to be, because, again, he's just at the end of the day, Vision he's an android. He's an AI driven android. So it's like, is he, or as they call him, a synthezoid? Is he is he really dead and she's just marionetting him? Or is she manipulating reality, and in so doing, she rewires Vision, and he brings him back to life without the Mind Stone? I agree with you completely. I love the fact that they're giving you both options, and they're not going to let you know clearly until they get down to the end, probably, where everything will come together. But man, at first the thing for me is, I love the fact that the first 2 episodes, they had me the first 2.5 to 2 3/4 episodes, they had me deeply concerned. And now I'm like, this show is dope. This is why you gotta wait. This is why you gotta
stick it out.
Yeah, this is why you have to withhold judgment, full judgment, and give the creators and storytellers time to tell their story. For sure. So I stand corrected.
For sure. Yeah. I'm very curious to see like you said, more so like in the comic books, we know that Scarlet Witch has the power to bring people back to life. She brought her brother Quicksilver back to life, which is what I thought was going to happen. Right. But probably still could happen because, okay, at the end of the episode, we know it's Quicksilver from the Fox universe, right? With Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, you know what I mean? Patrick Stewart, Professor X, all that good stuff. But what if in the show she's like, okay, you're Quicksilver, but you're not my Quicksilver. Like, you're not my brother. Because she clearly, she recognized him, but she didn't recognize him. Like, which was really cool. Because that's another thing. Elizabeth Olsen was so good in this episode.
So good.
It was dang ridiculous. From, that, especially that scene where she comes out of her little dome.
I was waiting to bring it up.
Yeah, when she comes out of her
I think the best scene of the whole show.
For sure. When she comes out dragging that 80s drone that they sent in there and freaking chucks to that sword, being like, leave me alone. What are you doing? And threatens all of them. And she's back in her freaking, Wanda Scarlet Witch costume. She's pissed. Just the emotion. You could see the pain in her eyes, though. Like, she played, like, the pain and loss in her eyes so much. Like, leave me alone. I lost everything. I lost, my boyfriend or husband, everyone I loved, my brother. This is my last shot of happiness. And you could tell all of that just by looking into her eyes, which I'm like, freaking, you, Elizabeth Olsen,
agent
awesome.
says to her, what do you want? And her response is, I have what I want. That part, dude, where she creates her energy construct hex, the hex construct in her hand, and she's just sitting there and she's talking to Monica, and she's like, oh, you're still here, and she's talking to her, but she's just kind of playing with it in her hand. And when she's done talking, she just turns around and turns that hex loose, and all the guns turn onto the one singular agent that is the one who shot at her. And her boys, man, that was so good. And that was a full on nod, by the way. That this is the other thing that gets me. That was a full on nod. I had just watched the night before. I had just watched Dark Phoenix on HBO, and there's a scene in that movie where Magneto, where they're fighting the aliens. There and he crushes. It's one of the coolest parts in the movie. Is what I'm talking about, where he crushes the subway train, and he just literally crushes it down to nothing. But he does that, and he turns. He does it while he's turning, and he crushes it, and then just kind of like tosses it behind his back. It's a dope scene, and that part in the show was a total nod, because Magneto in the comics is the father of the twins, right? So he 100%. Once I saw that, then it all came back to me. I was like, oh my gosh, that was a total nod to Magneto in the last X-Men movie.
Well, even before that, if you remember, I believe it was X2, because Magneto does that crap all the time. He did it, I believe it was X2, with all the guns, where he takes all the bullets and darts out, and he points them at everyone, like he just turns them on them.
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot about that one too.
Yeah, and that was before the Dark Phoenix movie, so it was
yes.
Yeah, so they're definitely playing it up, be like, look, this is something her father does. Like, dude, and not only her father from the Fox universe.
But dude, I'm telling you, man, it would never have even registered until I saw Evan Peters Quicksilver from the new X-Men team.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It was,
once I saw that, I started running through my head, and I was like, oh my, honestly, I wouldn't have even registered even now unless I don't even know why I rewatched it. It was just on. So I just got, it was late at night and it was on, and I just finished it. And, it was like the next day we watched the new episode, and I was like, no way. So that is the part that blew my mind, bro. I honestly did not see that coming. I did not think that they would integrate the 20th Century Fox X-Men into the MCU. And let me tell you something. I've said it before. Freaking Michael Fassbender as Magneto, and what's his name? James McAvoy as Charles Xavier. That was I was like, man, it's such a loss, because that's such an incredible casting for those two characters. To lose that really stinks. All the other characters, I wouldn't mind if they got recast. But those two particular actors were so perfect for those roles. I don't mean to sound so flippant. That sounded mean. Like, I don't care if everybody else gets recast. What I'm saying is those particular two guys, I just thought they were the perfect casting for those two roles. And now the fact that we might actually not only get to keep them in the MCU, but we might actually see, based on the storyline that they're playing out here, we might actually get to see one, if not both of them, show up in this series. I think there's a very good chance that James McAvoy shows up in this series by the end as Charles Xavier. I think there's a really, really good chance of that now.
There is, yeah, for sure. But going to the bigger question of this is because this opens the doors to the multiverse, right? And it also basically confirms all the rumors we've heard about Spider-Man 3, right?
Without any doubt, yeah.
Where Tobey Maguire is going to be in it, Andrew Garfield, Jamie Foxx, I
mean, did you think that they were going to use this show to blast open the multiverse like this?
That's what I'm saying. No, and then just even, I believe a few days before that, Tom Holland takes to social media and says that Spider-Man 3 is the most ambitious superhero movie ever made, which I'm like,
God.
Yeah,
I didn't see that. He said that?
He said that on social media, and I was like, wait a minute. Like,
hold on a second.
This is the guy who was in both Infinity War and Endgame and Civil War, 3 of the most ginormous superhero movies of all time. And he's saying he took to social media and said that Spider-Man 3 is the most ambitious superhero movie ever made, which all that tells me after this movie, after this reveal in episode 5 of WandaVision, is that they're probably not stopping at getting Andrew Garfield, Jamie Foxx, Maguire. They're going after, I full on see freaking Chris Evans coming back as the Human Torch, bro. Not Captain America.
No way.
He's the Human Torch in that universe. They're going all the way. Can you imagine seeing Wesley Snipes cameo as Blade?
Captain?
For real. That's what I'm saying. Wouldn't that be hilarious? That would play out perfectly.
That would be really funny.
Yeah, and then Wesley Snipes as Blade, because we know Mahershala Ali is playing Blade, but what if we get an alternate version of old, disgruntled, almost Dark Knight Returns Blade, right? Where Wesley Snipes comes in.
Wesley Snipes already said that he wishes he could reprise the role.
I'm telling you, man. And there's rumors of Leonardo DiCaprio possibly showing up as Peter Parker, because we know he was supposed to be cast as Spider-Man in James Cameron's Spider-Man movie that never was. I'm telling you, if they go that route and just have cameos and one-offs, that would make sense to be, this is the most ambitious superhero movie ever made, because you're literally pulling in every former Marvel movie star to cameo or play some sort of role in this movie.
Let me tell you something. First of all, like you said, this is a guy who played this role, Peter Parker Spider-Man, in Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. 3 of the biggest movies, not superhero movies, biggest movies of all time, not box office. I'm talking about production budget, scope of the film, the ensemble cast, the largest films of all time. So I have to believe some of that is hyperbole, but if it's not, that's insane. I can't even imagine what that would make Spider-Man, I would have to think at that point, the central figure of the MCU, similar to what Iron Man and Captain America was.
Which makes all the sense in the world, because Spider-Man is Marvel's most popular character.
And it would make sense why we're now hearing rumors, which admittedly, I did not think was going to happen, but we're now hearing rumors that Disney is in negotiations with Sony once again to re-up Spider-Man for another potentially 3 films. After this one, so 3 more after not Far From Home, Spider-Man 3. So that would make a ton of sense, because they were in Far From Home. They pretty much were setting him up to be the next Tony Stark. That's what they flat out said in the film.
For sure,
that there's no replacing Tony Stark, but that he was going to become one of the central figures of the Avengers and the MCU going forward. So hearing that and seeing what they're doing, and now knowing full on, especially with all these hot rumors that we're hearing, not much has been confirmed officially, but most of it is kind of like a foregone conclusion at this point, especially the Spider-Man stuff that we're hearing about, Tobey Maguire and Molina coming back as Doc Ock and so forth. Jamie Foxx, I think Jamie Foxx coming back, was that officially confirmed?
Yes, but not by Marvel or anyone, but it was one of those things where it's he's cast. You know what I mean? It's one of those rumors.
Okay. Well, it just looking at those, if those things alone, full on bringing in a Spider-Verse into a MCU film, you have to say Spider-Man, obviously they're looking to make him a central figure, but not only that, the multiverse aspect of this is going to be massive in phase 4. I knew it was going to be big. We knew that it was going to play a role. We knew they were going to have to use it to introduce the X-Men and so forth. But this is way bigger than anything that we talked about or anything that I think any of fandom anticipated Marvel doing with phase 4.
Oh, for sure. I didn't think they were going to do this multiverse, stuff at all. Like, this was kind of like a surprise. That was DC's thing, right? This is what I kind of told you. I'm like, poor DC, the DCEU. Like, this was their big thing. DC fandom 2020. They're like, hey guys, yeah, the DC multiverse. Flashpoint, we're bringing that to you. You know what I mean? Like, Ben Affleck's going to be in the Flashpoint movie.
Yeah. They were all excited. They were like, hey guys, we're totally doing it. It's going to be
we're bringing
awesome.
Michael Keaton into our universe with Flash, like all this stuff. And that was something that I said DC should have been doing forever. And when they finally did that in that the Flash episode that crossed over into the DCEU, I'm like, yes. And then fandom even confirmed that even more, that is what they're doing. I'm like, there's a bright future. Now everything exists. They can make fun of the stuff that didn't work, like the Schumacher films and the Green Lantern. And keep everything that works. And who wouldn't want to see an old man Bruce Wayne played by Michael Keaton and get glimpses of maybe the Joker he fought in his universe, with Jack Nicholson. So all that good stuff. But I feel bad for DC because it was like their idea first and they announced it, but freaking Marvel Studios is executing it before them. Which is so sad.
Kevin Feige basically pulled a hold my beer.
Yeah.
Sort of a thing. Yeah. Right. And this is such a good example of what, why you just cannot as a production company that's holding on to such huge opportunity in terms of their franchises under DC. You just cannot allow yourself to be in such disarray and so disorganized, because DC, let's all be honest, DC could have been doing this like 10 years ago.
Oh, for sure.
10 years ago, they could have launched this multiverse idea and gone in this direction. And that could have been their niche, because the MCU was not doing it. And the MCU, or Marvel rather, Marvel Comics has its own multiverse and has for a very long time, just like DC. So Marvel had the opportunity. It was sitting there waiting. And honestly, it was frankly inevitable for Marvel to eventually tap into it, especially after they introduced like Doctor Strange and so forth. It was inevitable. So DC just sat on their hands for too dang long, and they're still going to do it. And I'm sure it's going to be cool and it's going to be fun and stuff like that. But Marvel, once again, is beating them to the punch. And, I really hope it's not a situation where they also do it better, because that's going to be a real, like you said, that's just going to be a real bummer for DC.
Letdown, because one of our speculations was like, not that the Marvel Studios and the MCU was going to, tank or anything like that, but we really just thought it was almost like kind of a little bit of a passing of the torch, where now it's DC's time to shine and they're going to kind of, take the top spot for a while. But at the rate the freaking MCU is going right now, and like you said earlier, this is just WandaVision. Like, we haven't gotten Loki or like Falcon Winter Soldier. This is just the one series, and it's already at like basically a 10. So it's crazy.
Yep.
But playing devil's advocate, I almost feel like we should have saw this years ago.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. I don't know what we were thinking in any way, second guessing or doubting Kevin Feige.
Well, just the multiverse in general, because at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, we freaking see Jonah Jameson. And not only that, he's played by J.K. Simmons, who is Jonah in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. So that right there, because at the time we were just
Should have been the tip-off.
Should have been the tip-off. At the time, us, like many fans, were just like, oh my God, they got, J.K. Simmons to play Jonah again. Not, hey, is this possibly a hint at a multiverse? Like, does that mean the freaking multiverse exists and they're just pulling him? Because also in the freaking Morbius trailer,
there was no J. Jonah Jameson that had been cast yet in the MCU,
which is why we all just
assumed. we just all thought like, well, okay, this is they're just bringing him back to play Jameson here too, and it was just a cool nod. But no,
because even in the Morbius trailer, which got pushed back to January of 2022, by the way, so that's unfortunate. We see a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man like graffitied on like the alley on a wall, and at the end of that trailer, we also see Michael Keaton Vulture talking to Morbius, who's obviously from the MCU. So this was like they were setting this up from a while, because I remember when we first saw that reveal of Michael Keaton in the Morbius trailer, we're like, oh, so the Spider-Verse. So we initially thought that meant that they're just taking Spider-Man out of the MCU and transitioning him fully into like, you know, Sony and all that stuff. Where now it seems like, are they just is the MCU, Marvel Studios, just making deals with Sony, and they own Fox now, so they can do whatever they want with that. But are they making deals with Sony to like, so now they could pull all the Sony movies, Fox movies, and MCU movies and make this multiverse? That seems like that's what they're doing now. Yeah, right? Like, I mean, that's crazy.
At the bare minimum, they got to make a deal to be able to pull them in for cameos at the bare minimum.
It's crazy.
But it looks like that's the direction. And as far as moving Morbius, it's probably the smartest direction and decision that Sony could make, because now it'll release, and I'm sure this is the reasoning. I'm sure they want it to release after Spider-Man 3, the next Spider-Man film, which comes out, I believe, in December of this year, right? But so it makes all the sense, because Morbius would release just a couple months later.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious to see where this all goes, because the MCU is a tricky thing, right? Where it's all puzzle pieces, where you can't, the way they shoot like teasers and end credit scenes, they won't make sense if it's not, if it's not in order. So I'm very curious to see
exactly. And now with them tying in so much closer to Sony, you would have to imagine that those two are going to tie even further. They may have even added to the Morbius film since then. Very, very likely.
For me, so there's no question that the doors in the multiverse for Marvel have been kicked open, right? With everything we've learned, obviously the most massive reveal, Peter Evans, but even the Morbius stuff with like the Vulture and Jameson, all the little Easter eggs we've gotten throughout the last 2 years, and definitely this new massive one. My only question is, which we're not going to know, is it as simple as like, Evan Peters Quicksilver is coming in from the multiverse just to visit? Or is he going to be replacing Aaron Tyler Johnson's Quicksilver? You know what I mean? Like,
that is a big question.
Are we going to have two Quicksilvers? Like, is this just like, hey, I'm popping in here because multiverse, but I'm going to be gone. And then by the end of this, by the end of WandaVision, she brings back the MCU Quicksilver. Like, she resurrects her real brother. Because again, at the end of the episode, she's like, yeah, you're Quicksilver, but you're not my Quicksilver. Or at least that's how she was kind of playing it. We won't know until episode 6, but that's kind of how it felt. So I don't know if like, that he's going to be like, this version of Quicksilver is going to be the new MCU Quicksilver, or it's just like, we're letting you know we can cross over now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Curious.
And I see, for me, I'm kind of like, I just can't imagine them doing something that large and that with something that has that big of ramifications directly tied into a universe that they just spent a few $1 billion on, and it not be a very intentional introduction of a new universe into the MCU. I just can't imagine them just using it as like, oh, we're just going to do a quick nod, tip of the hat, and off he goes.
But how does that play out? Like, because they just killed the Fox version of Wolverine in Logan, right? So we know that Wolverine in the Fox universe dead, right? Now, obviously, Wolverine, you could bring him back. He died in the comics, came back. It's comic books, for sure. You could do that. But I don't think Hugh Jackman is coming back to play Wolverine again. He played Wolverine in like, what, 9 films?
Said the same thing.
Or something like that. So is it going to be this thing where they're, we'll keep Quicksilver, and Michael Fassbender and, other characters who want to still play in these characters, but people like Wolverine, are they going to recast a new Wolverine? Are they going to recast Cyclops, Mystique, so on and so forth? So are they going to pick and choose, you think? That's what I'm really curious to see how it works. Like,
I think honestly it might be tied to what Wanda tells her sons in episode 5, where she's like, some things are forever, right? No matter how sad it makes you.
Yeah.
You can't undo death, basically. So now, while we know in the comics, Wanda can bring people back from the dead. And I think a lot of it is going to hinge on, I don't know if you can say it's going to hinge on Vision, because Vision is he's not human.
He's a synthesoid.
Yeah, he's a synthezoid. So, it's possible that maybe she can bring him back and find a way to repair him, using the same means that, Shuri was going to use in Infinity War. So I guess that's not quite the same thing. But I think that that may have been a way for them to tell us that they're not going to have her bring people back from the dead. Maybe that's a step too far that might, in terms of like the audience may see that as kind of like, because at some point, if you start creating that as a rule, well, then you can just bring everybody back.
Yeah, comic books.
Yes, in comics, but I'm talking about in the MCU.
Right.
Right? Like she could just bring back anybody who died. Let's say Tony Stark. She could just bring Tony Stark back.
Although there's rumors that Tony Stark is appearing in a Disney Plus show. Same thing with Chris Evans as Captain America. So,
but all the things that they're talking about bringing him back in is like cameos from the past or him voicing.
Is it? Well,
we don't know.
We don't know yet, right?
We don't know. So, but I guess a lot of it is going to depend on that, right? Are they going to, what Wanda said to the two boys, Tommy and Billy, is that going to be them telling us like, we are not going to have her bring people back from the dead. And that is going to be the reason that Quicksilver is introduced this way, to fill that void and give her a semblance of her brother, but also us as fans give us Quicksilver back, while simultaneously them introducing the X-Men, which we knew was coming. We just didn't know. I didn't think they were going to use that X-Men. I thought they were going to start from scratch.
As did I. I thought they were going to do the same thing too. But I'm wondering too.
I think pretty much everybody did.
I'm wondering like what they're going to do with the Fantastic Four. Like, are they going to bring in like the freaking OG Fantastic Four?
Oh my gosh. I don't think so. Could you imagine like Michael
so.
Chiklis coming in as Thing?
Oh my God. I will say though, I want that Chris Evans Human Torch cameo because that would just be funny.
Yeah. No, that would be really funny. But you got Jessica Alba, Sue Storm.
Yeah, I'm saying there's some big names, right?
Yeah. So at bare minimum, we know now that they know, okay, this is stuff we can play with. Mm-hmm. Like these are things that, we can do, and we can, even just for fun, just to do like little cameos and little appearances, like using these characters and stuff. But for me, the biggest one, because I do think that they're going to recast the Fantastic Four. I think we're going to meet this world's Reed Richards, Sue Storm, which we all hope at least anyone that's a decent, reasonable human being is hoping that it's going to be John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. That's just just needs to happen for the universe, is what I think.
That's how the series is going to like end. Like with episode 9 is going to come out, and they're going to finally going to introduce Reed and possibly Sue. Which can you imagine? Like literally, they say Reed, and like the guy turns around and you see John Krasinski. It's him, and with the gray streaks on his temples. Crazy. Like, dude, like that. Because what's funny too is John Krasinski originally auditioned to be Captain America years back at the beginning of the MCU.
That's right.
So he's no stranger to wanting to be in the MCU, and apparently he was in meetings with Marvel Studios several months ago. There was reports of that. So insane. Was it for this, or was it for something else? Was it, who knows? Who knows? Yeah. But I don't know. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Something fishy.
I agree. And I can just say this. This is the biggest thing that episode 5, WandaVision as a whole, but episode 5 has really left me with just thinking was we've got, and I already referenced it saying, just what we have gotten so far, the ramifications of the things that they've introduced just with this series alone are massive. When you look at that, right, just what WandaVision has already brought to the table, and then you consider the fact that just this year alone, we have a Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up in March. Then we've got Black Widow coming out. Then we've got Loki. I'm forgetting Loki. We've got Loki. Then we know for a fact is going to introduce new elements to the MCU. Like the TVA and other items that we know that show is going to introduce. So you're going to have Loki. Then you've got Shang-Chi, the Eternal, or Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Hawkeye, and Spider-Man the Spider-Man 3 film all in 2021. So
nuts,
it's
dude.
like
nuts.
Just looking at what WandaVision alone has brought to the table, and then you think about the fact that you've got that much more content coming over the next 11 months or 10 and a half months, bro, that's crazy.
Dude, this is like 2020 like pushed everything back, right? So now we're getting an onslaught of Marvels. Like Marvel Studios is attacking us this year. Like they're like, we were supposed to release half this stuff last year, but that didn't happen. So how about you get something every month? Like literally, I think there's only like a 2 to 3 week break between WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier. So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, and then after that, we're gonna get another 2 to 3 week break, and it's gonna be Loki, and then we're getting like Black Widow, and just like
Right.
it's insane.
Yeah, and let's not forget Venom. We know Venom is also going to be tying into the MCU now. So, we know that that's also coming out in June. Mm-hmm. So that you got to weigh that into the equation because they're tying it all together now. So it's like, that's basically an extended MCU film.
Now it is. For sure.
It is unbelievable. But the main thing that I'm pointing out here is the fact that this year is going to be so much more transformative for the MCU than I ever thought it would be. I thought we were going to get kind of a slow burn rollout of a new direction of the MCU over the next couple of years. And while that, yes, absolutely, we lost all of 2020 in terms of the content rollout for the MCU. So it is all compacted into 1 year. Or at least some of it is, it's all pretty much compacted into 2021. But still, it's still much faster. I thought we were going to be looking at, probably 4 years, 5 years for them to really get this new direction for the MCU off the ground and running. And this, just in 2021, we are going to see the MCU completely transformed into something entirely different than what it was, which is really exciting.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Like it's, I totally agree with everything you just said. As far as I didn't think it was going to happen this fast either. Like we're halfway, a little more than halfway through WandaVision, and there's been so many reveals. And the crazy part is the first 2 episodes. Really, the first 3 episodes told us nothing. So we got all these revelations of the multiverse, of character names, all this stuff. We're really only pulling that from 2 episodes 4 and 5. So
for real,
with 4 episodes left, can you imagine the amount of information we could potentially get and reveals with 4 episodes? If we got that amount in really 2 episodes, what can they do in 4?
No joke.
So I don't even know. And then even after that, like again, we know this leads into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, what is it going to set up for that? Is the Multiverse of Madness going to pick up exactly where this series left off? Then going into Falcon Winter Soldier, what is that going to reveal? Because that's going to do big stuff. People are saying that Falcon obviously is going to become Captain America, even though Anthony Mackie said that's not true. But then recently there was actually toy images of Anthony Mackie in a Captain America suit, kind of confirming that yes, he is going to be Captain America. So there's like a lot of stuff happening.
Right.
So I'm very happy right now being a massive comic book fan.
Yeah.
This is fun times. And we're also getting the Snyder Cut. So, I'm excited for that. Man. I just want to see. So it's a very good time to be a comic book fan, especially if you're a fan of the movies.
Man, I kid you not. I mean, just as far as 2021 alone goes, we could spend all of our content just covering what's happening in terms of comic book centric content. We could spend all of the time just covering television.
It's dominated pop culture, and especially the movies, right?
It's unbelievable.
It's because between DC, Marvel, and Star Wars, which is obviously comic books as well, Marvel literally pumps out quite a few Star Wars books.
You think?
Just those 3 franchises alone, you could talk about, forever. But that doesn't include like all like the Mortal Kombat stuff, which is also like within that realm.
Exactly.
Godzilla, like all this freaking stuff. It's nice. It makes me very happy. And that's just like the movies, right? Then you have what Disney Plus is bringing, and then the animated movies and games and cartoons. it's quite nice. Us
It is,
like
man.
nerds do not know how spoiled we are. That's the crazy thing too, right? Like people who like kids now who are like 10, 13, 14, this is what they've always had. This is all they know. They've grown up with the MCU. You know what I mean? Like they've had the MCU since like 2008. They're now like 12, 13 now. That's all they know. Like I'm even a little spoiled with it where like I grew up with the Tim Burton Batman movies and then watched like the Christopher Reeve movies and like, you know, the reruns and stuff like that. But so I've always had that stuff. But people who are like older, like our parents and stuff, this is like who's been reading comics since like, you know, the 70s. They're probably like, man, where was this stuff when I was a kid? You know what I mean? So it's quite nice. I think sometimes we got to step back and be like, we got to realize how good we have it being like comic book and pop culture fans, because this wasn't a thing in like the 80s and 70s. Sure, we would get like superhero movies every now and then, but it was like once every 5, 6, 7 years, not like, you know, 5, 6, 7 a year.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is a totally different world. You know, exactly what you just said. You know, we got our comic book fix with either, you know, the print copy or, you know, on Saturday mornings or, you know, weekday afternoons, you know, with X-Men and Batman the Animated Series. That was how we got our comic book fix. You know, now it's everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. And if it's not comic books, man, it's, you know, it's anime, it's game, you know, it's Gundam, it's, you know, the monster universes, it's, you know, gaming. It is incredible. It is literally taken over pop culture.
Ready Player One, man. Ready Player One. It was real. It's happening. It's coming for us.
Ready Player One. Oh my God. You're right. It's happening. Oh my gosh. Wow.
But
yeah, it's a ton of fun. I mean, you have to say it is a ton of fun, especially for nerds like us. It is a lot of fun. Yes, it's a ton of opium, but it is a ton of fun.
Speaking of ton of fun, like let's talk about that Falcon Winter Soldier trailer from the Super Bowl that premiered on Super Bowl Sunday. Come on,
dope.
That it just looks so good. Like the fact that this series,
I'm trying not to watch it,
dude. No, the fact that this series is literally going to be Winter Soldier and Falcon bickering while they save the world is gonna be
so good.
The best thing ever. Like, if what we saw in the trailer is just like 20% of the show, I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it, because they basically realized, you know, everyone loved this duo when it started up in Civil War. You know what I mean? When they met in the back of the car.
That's
like,
right, yeah.
That's where it really all started. And, you know, they're fighting Spider-Man. Falcon's like, I hate you. It's a Winter Soldier and stuff like that. So it's just like, it's so good. And the fact that they're like having a staring contest at the end of the freaking trailer, like children, to the fact that they're having to go through therapy, like couples therapy. Oh my God. And then it's like good action too, right? Like it's really badass, cool action mixed with like the childish, like back and forth trying to one up each other. Oh, I can't wait. I think if the trailers are anything like how the series is going to be, I think it could possibly like, you know, even one up WandaVision for me personally, because that's probably more my like style as far as just like that action comedy, just like, you know, balls to the wall. Oh, I'm so excited.
I couldn't agree more. I've been saying that for a little while that, you know, Falcon Winter and the Winter Soldier is more my cup of tea in terms of its style.
Right.
And I thought for sure I was going to be like, you know, I was going to love Falcon and the Winter Soldier much more than WandaVision. And I'm, you know, I probably still will in the sense of like stylistically, it's just seems like it's more my, you know, that buddy cop. They can't stand each other. The odd couple buddy cop situation.
It's like a Lethal Weapon. It's like kind of what it is, right?
I love that. Exactly right. Exactly. And I love that stuff. I grew up on it. So I think that it's still, but WandaVision has definitely radically changed my mind and reversed my course. It has become so good. I really, really like what they've done with it. But yeah, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier looks so good. And man, as far as like the fight choreography, the visual effects, it freaking looks just like a Marvel movie.
100%.
It's unbelievable. And we've got Baron Zemo coming back.
Can't wait.
And you know, I'm trying to figure out, you know, because we've heard that U.S. Agent is going to be in this show.
You see him in the trailer, yeah.
You see it, but it's like, but how? Like, what is the role that he's going to play in the series? I'm not 100% sure, but that is one of the biggest things I'm curious about is how US Agent is going to play into this storyline. Because I'm not sure what they're doing, just overall after I'm talking about coming off of Endgame, I'm not sure, like, what are they doing with Falcon? What are they doing with Winter Soldier? Where are they going with these characters? How is Baron Zemo going to play a role here? And even going forward, are they going to be introducing him back to us just so that we can see that they're going to make him a much bigger villain in the MCU and he's going to play a bigger role? Or is this going to be like they reintroduce him and he's primarily going to be for this series and then he's going to kind of, fade out? I don't know, because we know that Marvel has long had a kind of a one and done, situation with some really good villains. Which is
awesome that they're bringing him back.
Awesome, because he was really good, in Civil
good.
War.
My theory with US Agent,
really good.
My theory with US Agent is probably going to be like Shield in America needs like that Captain America, right? So he comes in to fill that void because Sam Wilson doesn't want to. He's like, no, it's my friend. I'm not going to do it. No, I'm just not going to do it. And then by the end of the series, he ultimately takes up the shield and becomes, Falcon Cap. That's where I think it's kind of, overall it's going to probably go. But who knows?
But like, who is he?
Oh, like who's playing him?
That's what I'm saying. Like, who is he? That's what I want to know. Like, where does he come from? Who is he?
Like, what are they going to do with him in the MCU? I see what you're saying.
Exactly. Like, Captain America was Captain America this whole time. Now we've got this guy that comes out of nowhere and is going to fill Cap's role. Like, who? And it's not Bucky, and it's not, it's not Sam Wilson, because we know in the comics, Sam Wilson he becomes Captain America, and then, he kind of loses it a little bit. And then, US Agent comes in and actually, kind of knocks some sense into him. And then they join forces. I'm talking about in the newer storyline where Cap becomes a part of Hydra. And he kind of knocks some sense into him, whatever. They join forces to battle Hydra Captain America until the end reveal. So he's played a bunch of different roles, but I'm just curious with this, like, because they're bringing him in out of left field, right? Like, this is a guy who's basically going to come in and take over Cap, but we've never been introduced to him.
They're bringing him out in the sense that, like, we've never heard of him in the MCU before. But I think this is like the perfect time to bring him out, right? Because Cap is gone. Like, that's the only reason why you would have US Agent when Cap is not there. So,
what I mean is, I don't mean in the sense of like them introducing him, the timing of introducing him now after Cap's gone. I mean in the sense of we've gone all this time and we've never even heard of him.
Well,
in the MCU,
I would imagine.
So it's like, who is he going to be?
Maybe they just replicated the super soldier serum and gave it to this random guy. Yeah. It's like some test subject or army vet. Or Green Beret or Navy SEAL or something. I was like, hey, now you're the new Cap. You know what I mean? So, I'm very curious, but also it's like, because we know that Sam has Captain America's shield. So what shield is US Agent using? Did they replicate the shield? If so, where did they get all that vibranium? So yeah, there's a lot of questions, and I can't wait for them to be answered in that show.
And I wonder how that's one of the things that I want to see, like, right from when it picks up. Is where do they pick up? Are they going to show us like some kind of a sequence? Because at the end of Endgame, when Cap hands off the shield to Sam, right? Steve is like, it felt like a passing of the torch.
Oh, for
Sam
sure.
doesn't reject it or anything like that. He kind of hints that he doesn't know if he's ready, and he's like, you'll be fine, sort of a deal. But I wonder if we're going to see at the beginning of this, like, Sam wrestling with it and not feeling worthy of it or whatever, to where, we learn why does US Agent have the shield? Why doesn't Bucky have it? It was Steve gave it to him. So you know what I just thought of right now is I wonder if this is going to be some kind of an effect. The US Agent's existence is going to be some kind of effect of what Captain America did going back in time.
It's possible. I
wonder if that's going to be where this comes into a play. Even like some changes, maybe like what that might explain how Baron Zemo is out and he's free.
I mean, yeah. With me though, like it's weird, right? Like some things I like to like theorize, but then there's other things where I'm like, I just want to be surprised because it makes it that much better while you're watching. Like I don't want to try to figure it out. So
that's why I haven't watched the full new trailer. I just watched the Super Bowl spot.
Oh, you didn't watch the full 2-minute trailer?
No, because I want to be surprised. I don't want to, because they show too much. Like with the WandaVision, they showed so much in the WandaVision trailers that now I wish I hadn't seen.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, so all I'm going to say is that trailer is freaking amazing, dude. I'm so sold. So you didn't get the reference of the therapy session at the end of that trailer then?
Well, I saw a little, which one?
At the end of the 2-minute spot that they released at the Super Bowl that you could watch online, Bucky and Sam are in a therapy session with a couples therapist.
No, I hadn't seen it.
Dude,
I hadn't seen it, but I think I saw something else where they teased something like that. But yeah, I haven't seen the whole thing, so I don't want to. And I'm kind of like.
But you saw the bit. You saw the bit in the trailer. It's like you just got your ass kicked by a little girl.
Yes. And he's like, "Shut up!"
So good. That's what I'm saying. Like funny. It's full on Bad Boys, Lethal Weapon, but superheroes, and I can't wait.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. It's so good. I'm really, really stoked about that show, and it's so fun because they're rolling these things out so fast. It doesn't feel like anything is far away now. Right?
Yeah.
Because we're going from one right into the next. So good. I'm really, especially because of where WandaVision has gone.
WandaVision kicking
that
things
much
off.
More excited. Yeah. And it's made me that much more excited about where they're headed with all the rest of this content.
Dude, WandaVision is full on becoming like the Mandalorian where it's like spawning, everything's going to spawn from it. Like it introduces all these ideas, and then we get all these other shows because of it.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I think we could talk about the MCU all day long. We already have for a good.
We pretty much did.
We pretty much did. And I think we can agree that we're very, very excited for the future of the MCU because it looks brighter than ever currently.
Yeah, there's a high bar after Infinity War for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's
for sure.
Really high bar to clear.
But with
these guys, they are definitely at the bare minimum. They are doing much more than I thought they were going to, and they're doing it much faster than I thought they were going to.
I think they realized after the first 10 years and the success of those first 10 years and, wrapping that up with Endgame, Infinity War so well, they're like, okay, we have to up the game here a little bit. And how else do you up the game by introducing the multiverse? I think that's kind of what happened because they're like, what else can we do? Like we could introduce new characters all day long and that's going to be all fine and great and people will, probably like it, but that's not going to blow the doors open. We want to blow the doors open and we're like, hey, remember Tobey Maguire Spider-Man? Yeah, he's in our universe now. You know what I'm saying?
And I really do wonder how long they knew that this was the direction. Like Kevin Feige, like how long did he know this was the direction he wanted to go for phase 4? Or was it like they had plan A and plan B? If we can get Fox, then this is plan B. This is plan A.
He pulled a Ross from Friends.
If we can't get Fox, then this is plan A.
He pulled a Ross from Friends. Pivot.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
But
good stuff, man.
Let's switch it up to DC, Tim, and not just DC Comics. We know Future State is in full swing. We've been covering it on the main variant channel. But there was a recent reveal about a week or so ago that hit all the major comic book websites that Black Adam is going to have a name change come Infinite Frontier in March. Mm-hmm. Now we all know he goes by Teth Adam, Black Adam. He's getting a movie star in one of the biggest movie stars in the world. Freaking Dwayne The Rock Johnson is playing Black Adam. It's Black Adam, right? He's the freaking Joker in a sense to Shazam. He's like, they're like peas in a pod, right? Yin and yang. They're changing his name. One
of the biggest overall villains in the entire DC universe.
Right. Villains, anti-heroes, very popular character. They're changing his name though. And his new name,
I know.
His new name.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get it out.
His new name is Shazadam.
No, it's not.
That's what DC decided to change his name to.
No, it's not.
It's not. It's not.
It's not.
It's
not to us.
It's not. No,
it's Shazadam.
It's Shazadam for sure.
It's Shazadam.
But for everyone who's like, what the? I'm going to spell it out for you. It is Shazadam. Shazadam. No, obviously DC is pronouncing it Shazadam. We're not going to call him Shazadam. No.
No, we're not.
It's Shazadam.
It's Shazadam.
He is now Shazadam. Now, I don't know what, like, okay, again, much like Future State, you know, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, because at the beginning of Future State, I was worried about a lot of stuff, but now that we're pretty much, it's almost over, it's like 3/4 of the way through, I'm actually liking a good amount of the titles. Like, I'm loving Nightwing. Flash was really good. Teen Titans has been great. Dark Detective, like, I'm digging it. Like, I'm like, okay, I get on board with this. Right. Like, this is why I wanted to hold all judgment. I want to do the same thing with this, but because we don't know why. Maybe it's like a joke. Maybe he can't use, because we know that, like, Black Adam, or Shazadam, is joining this new team of heroes and villains at the peak after Death Metal. So maybe there's some reason why he had to change his name, and it had to be this. He could no longer go by Black Adam because that was like tied to like villainy and like bad things, right? But whether it turns out, which I can only imagine, it has to be temporary. There's no way this is going to stick. So whether it's going to be a year or not, like, I can't. It's so funny. Like, I'm like, what? Like, you couldn't think of another temporary name, like Shaz. Like, again, they're calling it Shazadam, but like looking at it, it's Shazadam. Like, they're probably gonna have to, when they spell it out, they're gonna have to give it like a hyphen, like Spider-Man, where they put a little dash between Spider and Man, because otherwise, like, no joke, not even trying to like make fun of them or anything. When I first read this article, I myself pronounced it as Shazadam. Like, I'm like, Shazadam? I'm like, no way. And I said it a few times. I'm like, maybe Shazadam. But initially, not even trying to be funny, I'm like, that's Shazadam. And I know other people are going to do the same thing.
It is too. It's Shazadam. Yes. You pronounced it right. You're 100% right.
So I don't know. It's one of those things where, okay, sure, I'll see why you're doing this. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, because again, I don't know why the creators are doing this. There could be a legit funny reason. Who knows? But just looking at it, Shazadam, like, like, I can't. Like, again, Shazadam is what DC's calling it, but I will forever refer to it as Shazadam. I don't know what to say, man. Like, they turned Black Adam's name. Not only did they change his name, you know, in the comics coming March, they did it when Black Adam is about to film, when he's about to get his first live action movie with one of the biggest movie stars in the world playing Black Adam. You know, The Rock's be like, we ain't changing the movie name. It's Black Adam. Like, I don't care what you say. I'm The Rock.
Yeah, you try calling me Shazadam.
Yeah, right.
Try calling Dwayne Johnson Shazadam one time. See what happens.
I'm even thinking of him like calling down on the power. Like, you're gonna see the caption in the book, like Shazadam. Like, I can't do it. Like, I can't take it seriously. It's not gonna happen. And I like realize that you may have some people be like, well, Shazam doesn't sound that much better. I'm like, well, one, Shazam is like, it's like a magic name that's been around for years and years, so we've all kind of accepted, we've all kind of just like embraced it by now. But also, even if you think it sounds hokey, it's not nearly as hokey as Shazadam or Shazadam. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I'm kind of like, are you sure there's not more Marvel stuff we have to talk about that we can talk about or something?
Dude, the DC again. DC's been doing some good stuff. It's just this.
Yeah,
is like,
no, it's not that. Okay. It's
I know
it's with me with DC. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right?
Right.
And again, I am not going to rush to judgment on this. I don't know why they're doing this. It could be some temporary thing that's easily explained within a storyline. But I'm kind of like, why would you make an announcement on that? Why not? If it's something small that's temporary, why not just let that just live within the story so that it explains itself, so that you don't give people, you know, a month and a half to make fun of the name and poke around like, why would you do that? That's dumb. Black Adam is a dope name and it's a dope character. Why would you jack with it in that way? Why announce it? That's the part that I don't get. And again, it might be perfectly reasonable within the story. It might be just fine. There might be a temporary reason for why that's the case, and it makes all the sense once you read the story. And then, you know, obviously by the end of the story, it resolves and he goes back to being Black Adam, and, you know, whatever, you know, kind of like the Captain America, the Hydra Captain America thing, right? It actually wound up being a decent story. It wasn't, everybody made a big deal out of it, and it really wasn't. And that likely will be the case here. What I don't get is, why would you announce that? Why would you? That's the part that makes, I don't get that.
And why would you change his name around the time he's getting a movie to confuse people?
It's still a long time between now and when the movie comes out. Right. The movie doesn't come out till like 2022 or 2023.
But because of The Rock being like the most followed dude on Instagram, constantly talking about it.
Yeah, he's the most famous guy in the world.
Right, yeah. So and he's always talking about it. More people than ever are going to know who Black Adam is. But then when they go to the comics, they're going to be like, oh, I thought his name was Black Adam. Why is it Shazadam? You know what I mean? So it's it's just weird. I know the movie's not coming out for another, year and a half, 2 years, but still he's in the spotlight more than ever right now because The Rock is going to constantly be pushing Black Adam, especially once they start shooting in a month or two here. He's going to do set photos and random teases of the costume and stuff like that. So Black Adam is going to be in the public eye a lot this year. So why would you change his name right now? Again, I don't know. We have to see the story. They have their marketing teams and publicists that, do things for X, Y, Z. So who knows? To me, it's just why?
Yeah. For me, again, I'm not even, okay. The name on its face is it's just not good. In my opinion, that's not
Shazadam?
I don't get it. Yeah. Listen, stop mispronouncing the name of Shazadam. So I personally do not like the name, and if we were to find out that they're changing it for an extended period of time, that would be really dumb. I would not like that change. But again, I'm more than willing to for that to happen inside of a story, and it just be live inside of a self-contained story arc or something like that. That's not the issue. I'll give that more than opportunity to explain itself. It's the timing of it. I just don't understand why they would announce that as if it was some exciting new thing.
Maybe to prep people so it wasn't such a drastic change by the time they read it. I wrote it down on a piece of paper.
Which is kind of what makes me concerned. That's kind of what makes me concerned, right? Is they're making it sound like it's a bigger thing than you hope it is.
I'm looking at it again. I'm trying to still think of all the different ways you can pronounce it because we still haven't seen anyone say it in an interview. So it could be Shazadam, right? Obviously,
which is clearly the way it's pronounced.
Yeah, Shazadam or Shazadam. You know what I mean? SH-ZADAM. So maybe it's Shazadam. I don't know.
Or maybe Shazadam.
Shazadam. But that's another. It's just so confusing. Too, because when I read it, at least how they wrote it in the several articles, there was no hyphen or dash in there. It was just all one word. So I'm how? There's so many ways. There's 5 different ways to pronounce it. You got to tell me where to break it up. You know what I mean?
We're gonna find out that the second A is silent and it's Shazadam.
I don't know, man. It's freaking, all this to say, this is kind of a weird thing. Again, it may be fine in the story. We don't know. So I'm not going to give any final judgment. But initially it's what?
Yes. This is my issue with DC. This is why every time we bring up DC now, I'm just kind of
Well, Tim, I think on that, there's only one way we could end this podcast. It's only one way.
I know exactly where this is going, and I kind of hate you already.
That is with the recent release of a brand new clear images of Jared Leto as the Joker in the Snyder Cut.
That's great.
Yep. We've
that's
got
fantastic.
A little while.
Thank you so much for that.
A little while ago, Zack Snyder took to Vero and social media like he always does and posted a blurry picture of Jared Leto as the Joker and his Snyder Cut because we know they went back, they did reshoots. Jared Leto Joker is now going to be in it. So that was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago by now. More recently, he took to the interwebs again and posted 2 very clear pictures of Jared Leto as a Joker, and he looks quite different. One, he looks like they're both black and white pictures. He looks to be wearing surgical gloves and a surgeon's outfit with bloodstains on it. We can't really tell because it's black and white, but there's some kind of staining on there. And he also has very long hair now, kind of more to the Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix Joker. And the tattoos are gone on his face. No more face tats, which is, I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Because especially that damage tattoo on his forehead, I'm like, that is the most on the nose, That's literally like a sad person just like tattooing sad on their head. Like, it's like, oh, okay, I got it. You're sad. Like, it was so bad. But so the tattoos are gone. He's got long hair, and he's got the white face paint with red lipstick and makeup. So it's black and white. So we don't know if he's got like the black around his eyes like Heath Ledger, but one would assume so. So it does look like an amalgamation between, again, Joaquin Phoenix Joker and Heath Ledger Joker. I think it looks much, much better. But the real question is, sure, he looks a lot better, but is the performance of this Joker going to be better than what we got in Suicide Squad? That's the question.
I think that if you took on the role of the Joker, we would have a better Joker than the Joker.
I feel like that's like an insult to me.
A lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying that. I am sorry. For me personally, that Joker was not my cup of tea.
I think a lot of people would actually agree with you.
I did not like the way that. Yeah, I didn't like the stylistic choices they made for his look, wardrobe. I did not like the stylistic choices that Jared Leto made for the portrayal of the character. There was nothing that I liked about that Joker. I was thrilled when that Joker was done, and they could move on to something else, because I was not feeling that one at all. And again, everything, that was the style they chose, and that was what they wanted to do with the Joker, and it was a one-off sort of a thing. But that just was not my favorite. Kind of. Some of the reasons that you already listed, like, just the face tattoos and just the gang teardrop practically. I mean, it was so on the nose, and it was so much of a departure from everything we've ever known that the Joker is, that it was, it just felt so self-indulgent for me. That was the biggest problem I had with it, quite in all honesty. Is the whole thing about the Joker felt self-indulgent, especially knowing how much of a role Jared Leto himself played in creating the character for the film, and some of the crap that he pulled on the set and during the filming of the movie, some of the stuff that he was doing with cast and that was weirding people out and stuff like that. It just made the whole thing just way too self-indulgent for my taste. So I was glad to see them moving on from that and going in a different direction. Having said that, seeing these pictures now, it's definitely better.
For sure.
It's the same character, he's going to play it the same.
Well, like from what we know thus far, apparently this is the nightmare version of Joker. Like, we're going to see him in the nightmare sequence.
Right,
so
right.
I guess in the future, you got his, this possible future, he got his tattoos removed and grew out his hair. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting. Is like, will they even bother to explain that, or would they just move on, or is this going to be before Suicide Squad? I'm not sure where this lands in the timeline.
No, I'm
almost off the top of my head.
I'm almost positive this is Justice League is after Suicide Squad. I'm trying to like.
Well, I mean, in the sense of the nightmare version. I'm not sure, because how like the nightmare version of Batman is there after the Dark Side.
I see what you're saying.
So that's actually supposed to be a real thing, but I'm not sure the nightmare version of Joker, like where was that fall?
I'm curious, very, very curious. Again, it's one of those things too where I wish I didn't see the image. Like, I was fine with the blurry tees, because it's like, we've been saying, it's like, what surprise are we gonna have once we see this freaking movie? Like, if you're showing us everything, so I want to be surprised a little bit. And it's one of those things too where people might be like, well, just don't look at Arris. It's impossible. Like, doing what we do, following the people we follow and having to keep up with the news, there's no way. Like, that's literally my job, is to know about these things. So there's no way I can just avoid it, which is kind of like, so okay, I guess I'm just gonna know everything before I watch this movie.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that is. And again, I, for the 8 millionth time, that's the reason that I'm just kind of like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Stop posting things. You're finally getting to release your cut in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or a month. It's a month. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
a month from now, dude. Just put out basic marketing. Just plug the marketing that you have. Stop showing us new stuff. Let us see it. That's what we've been waiting for this whole time. That's what the fans have been calling for. You've been putting stuff out for 2 years. Stop releasing things because there's not going to be anything left. But, again, at least we're not getting Post Malone Joker. That's at least a positive. Having seen the pictures, that's the one positive that I'm going to draw from it, is at least they got rid of the tattoos and some of that stuff, and they watered it down at least a touch. So
I will say,
I guess if there's anything positive from it, that'll be it.
I will say one thing, looking at that picture, that is not something I would want to wake up to in the middle of the night. I'll say that, like, he does look kind of terrifying. It's like,
yeah, I mean, the one thing you can never take away from Jared Leto is that dude is terrifying.
Dude, yeah, we both.
It's kind of like Joaquin Phoenix playing the Joker, right? Like, you walked out of there going, like, clearly someone needs to check on Joaquin Phoenix because there's something wrong with him.
That was next level, because it's like Joaquin Phoenix wasn't playing crazy. Yeah. You're just like, oh no, you're crazy. Like, you're not playing crazy. You're just crazy. No. Like, I get it.
Exactly.
Like, the only way you can do that performance is being crazy.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. So in the same way, you watch Jared act like he just was in that Little Things movie that just came out on HBO with Denzel Washington. Yeah. We both saw that too. And, he plays just one of the creepiest dudes imaginable in that film. And I'm watching it, and I'm telling my wife while we're watching it, I was like, he's not pretending. Jared Leto's really that weird. He has to be.
It's right? Crazy
because he plays these characters so well. It's like no, he's got there's and you see some of the stuff he does like in real life, and you're like, nah. That's just a part of his personality. It has to be.
And it's crazy because he's like a fantastic singer. I know a lot of people might know this, that he's the front man for 30 Seconds to Mars. And back in the day with that first album, like, the single, I forget the name of that. I think Attack. That's what it was called. Attack. That single he had was amazing. Like, that was a freaking really good song and album. So it's crazy to see, like, this really good actor who has a really good, like, rock voice at the same time just be crazy. Like, it's like, oh, so like, are you acting when you're singing and being normal, and then you're just not acting when you're being crazy? So, like, you acting is not acting. That's what I'm saying. You're just being crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
This is you're allowed to be your true self in front of the camera.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's definitely creepy.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of creepy. It's more, what it is? It's more serial killer.
It is.
It's more like creepy gangster serial killer. Like, than it is like the psychotic Joker that I'm used to.
That's true. But I would love to see a roundtable with Joaquin Phoenix and Jared Leto. That would be like, can you imagine seeing like a dual interview, like someone just interviewing them at the same time? Because they're both like,
right,
nuts.
Yeah.
But man, that freaking Joaquin Phoenix performance for the Joker was, oh man, freaking incredible. Yeah. Incredible.
But what it is those two guys, they're different though.
Oh yeah.
Like Joaquin Phoenix, he's like this, he's like an introvert, and he's kind of socially awkward. He doesn't really love, he's kind of socially awkward. He doesn't really love being around tons of people or in the limelight a ton. Mm-hmm. He's a brilliant actor and performer. But he's more of an introvert, whereas Jared Leto, that guy, he's a different animal.
I'll drink your blood. I'll drink it.
He loves him some Jared Leto, I think.
Like
he looks at himself.
Yeah, he
wakes up in the morning, looks at himself, and goes like, "Yeah, there's the guy."
Maybe, yeah, possibly so. Maybe, who knows?
He seems like he loves him some him. So, it's a different kind of.
Either way, he has given some amazing performances over the years. I'm not talking about not talking about Suicide Squad, but some of the other movies he's been in. Really good, talented actor. A doubt. But Tim,
and I'm totally talking out of my butt. By the way, I've never met the man, so I can't say
he's
I'm just
like
basing
the
it on.
nicest dude in the freaking world.
Yeah, watch him be like this. I've been in the industry a while, so and I have heard some things, and I won't repeat them obviously, but he's definitely a different animal than Joaquin Phoenix, though.
That is true. But I think that's the best way to end today's podcast, Tim, on the Snyder Cut. Yet again, I'm gonna have to find a way to end next week's podcast on the Snyder Cut. That's gonna have to be
Fantastic.
Every week until the Snyder Cut is released. I'm ending it with the Snyder Cut. Here we go. There we go.
Fantastic. If you bring up Snyder Cut one more time, I'm just going to start playing 30 Seconds to Mars music over top of you.
Hey, man, I will welcome that. I haven't heard that song in a minute. That's a good song.
Just have you rave out.
Well, on that note, we'll see you guys next time when we talk about all things comics.